Political parties continue campaigns across the country, less than 2 weeks to the general elections.
Federal government says it has uncovered plot to discredit 2019 polls.
Nigeria Labour Congress holds its 12th Delegates Conference in Abuja.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on the Nigerian Armed Forces and national sacrifice.
Armed forces all over the world are known for their sacrifice in defending their nation's territorial integrity.
Well, the sacrifice most times demands long months and even years away from home, and in some cases paying the ultimate price.
And in Nigeria, the armed forces is recognized for the many heroic roles its officers, both living and dead, played. This special attention serves as a boost for their morale and as well as a token of appreciation for the work they do. The Armed Forces Remembrance Day, support for the Nigerian Legion, and other gestures serve this purpose.
Now, with security challenges confronting the nation on many and different fronts, the issue of sacrifice of the armed forces, members of the armed forces, becomes quite significant for those, of course, who are still in service, but even more so for those who intend to offer themselves for the national service through the armed forces.
Now, what then is the concept of sacrifice, especially as it relates to the armed forces? What is the place of patriotism in their service to the nation? Some members of the armed forces will be joining us to discuss these issues on the program today. This is Good Morning Nigeria, broadcast live on the Africa's largest TV network, the Nigerian Television Authority. I am Nigerian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. I also welcome you to this edition of the program. We will also, in the course of it, bring you regular complimentary segments, and these include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment. But first, let's take the news highlights with Comfort Amodu. Good morning, Comfort.
Good morning, Kingsley and Kirian. Here is the morning news. The APC presidential rally has continued in Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti state capital, as well as Akure in Ondo state, with a promise to execute more projects which will directly impact lives of the people and develop the country.
The Vice President is here, has told you in detail what we are doing, especially that affects your state. I assure you, the Minister of Transportation said, Amechi, because he's in charge, he told you what we are doing about the railways from Lagos to Kano through the states along the line.
Meanwhile, the Ekiti State Council of Obas has formally endorsed the re-election bid of President Muhammadu Buhari, saying the entire people of the state are proud to be associated with his vision and mission for a prosperous Nigeria. Chairman of the council and Oloye of Oye Ekiti Oba, Oluwole Ademolaju, announced this when the president, accompanied by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, paid homage on the monarchs. The president was also hailed by the paramount rulers in Ondo State.
In the past 3.5 years, we note the tremendous achievement of this administration.
I thank you very much for supporting us and supporting our great party. We are interested in leaving a legacy of performance.
Towards the 2019 elections, President Muhammadu Buhari has reiterated the need for Nigerian politicians to play by the rules of the game. This was when the president met with servicing members of the All Progressives Congress in the House of Representatives and aspirants under the party.
For me, this is like a family meeting that we discuss some of the shortcomings, some of the challenges ahead. And I also look at this like a kind of trying to do the right thing at the right time.
It's not all about money, it's all about ideology. And the fact that the APC has the ideology to carry the people along.
This gathering has reinvigorated all of us to go back and do more.
Governor Mohammed Umar Jibrilla has concluded the APC campaign rally for Adamawa Central in Hong local government with a call on the electorate to massively vote for President Muhammadu Buhari and all APC candidates in the forthcoming general elections for better days ahead.
President Muhammadu Buhari har zuwa kasa mu yi sak a APC.
Political groups, associations and individuals in Bauchi State have intensified campaign for President Muhammadu Buhari and other candidates of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in the state. They embarked on rallies, town hall meetings and press conference, among other means.
He will be more happy identifying with these people, considering the effort this government is making in trying to make the life of the ordinary Nigerians better.
And the federal government says it has uncovered plots by the opposition to connive with some Western lobbyists to advance the idea that the President Muhammadu Buhari administration has perfected plans to rig the forthcoming general elections. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed disclosed this at a media briefing in Abuja.
They have targeted for attack the two key institutions that are most critical to the success of the election. These are the Independent National Electoral Commission and the police. They have used every malleable and malicious personality to make wide allegations against INEC.
Former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is in Abuja ahead of the 2019 general elections. She had an interaction with the media on her arrival.
I just expect that I would join all Nigerians in ensuring that this whole process is so peaceful and successful. And that's the whole purpose of my mission, to be a part of that.
The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, says addressing security challenges and construction of the Mambila hydropower station in Taraba State will be among top priority if elected as president. He was speaking during a campaign rally in Jalingo, Taraba State.
I commit to you and I promise you we will address the issue of insecurity in Taraba, in Northeast, and Nigeria in general.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says his attention has been drawn to the allegation by the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, Kwara State Chapter, claiming that the federal government is planning to clamp down on the opposition parties in the state ahead of the forthcoming general elections. The minister stated this in Abuja.
The security agencies have assured that they will provide the enabling peaceful environment for voters to exercise their franchise. We therefore call on all the good people of Kwara State to disregard the orchestrated hysteria by the so-called CMPP.
Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress has advised the People's Democratic Party to concentrate on resuscitating its floundering campaign, which has seen majority of its governors tactically and openly avoiding the support of the presidential bid of the PDP candidate, Atiku Abubakar. A statement by the National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Larry Issa Onilu, says the PDP must understand that all registered political parties are equal stakeholders in the coming elections. In this regard, it is tired narrative that the entire election process is skewed against it, which is an admittance of defeat by the PDP and discrediting state institutions in the eyes of Nigerians and the international community is unhealthy for electoral process and a threat to democracy. The statement adds that the era of sham politics are gone and the APC will ensure the wishes of the electorate prevails in all elections by ensuring that elections are free, peaceful, and credible. Now, wife of the president, Aisha Mahmoud Buhari, has called on Nigerian youths not to allow themselves to be used as political thugs by desperate politicians to achieve their personal gains before, during, and after February general elections. Mrs. Buhari stated this in a message at the Palace of Etsu of Kwali and the Chairman Council of Chiefs, Shaban Audu Nizazo III, when the Women and Youths Presidential Campaign team paid a visit to the area in their effort of canvassing support for President Muhammadu Buhari.
Now we are here again for the second time, soliciting for his support, as usual, for his re-election bid for Buhari and Oshibanjo.
New national executives to lead the Nigerian Labour Congress for another term of 4 years have emerged. In order to make the election acceptable to all members, the NLC at the 12th Delegations Conference was advised to comply with the constitution of the Congress.
In defending and promoting the cause of Nigerian workers, our focus is to build workers' power through organizing.
We urge you to ensure the conduct of free, fair and transparent elections.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kirian and Kinsley after this break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem promptly through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
My name is Mrs. Awoniyi, and I'm talking from Sora Shopping Complex, Lagos. I just want to talk about the IPP electrification project in Sora Market. I run a boutique business and I have really benefited from this project so much because since it took off, I don't use my generator any longer. I've had to move my generator home. And I don't think I was once disappointed. Let's hope it will be a permanent project that we will enjoy for a long time. It's so convenient and it's so reliable to some extent. Since they started, we've not had cause to have a shortage of light or anything.
Manager people, make we make the right choice, yo. Make we vote for a man of integrity. Hey, and so make we gather together and make this change. Work, my people of Nigeria. Together we go carry Nigeria to the next level. Nigeria don't decide. Oh. agriculture to the next level, fight corruption to the next level, good roads to the next level, electricity to the next level, railway with the next level, empower to the next level, pay that money. For good health we go. Oh, Baba Buhari, my people, for the next level. ABC, next level. Naija people, make we all come out to vote Baba Buhari.
This message is from Buhari Next Level Group.
Me, I am ready for the party. Oh yeah, I want to be smarter. I go really early, oh. I know your story. I go yaba to buy material. I go time my daily, yeah. I go no say I don't go. If you see my daily, oh, it go wound everybody. Daily. Let me go do tielo. Let me go do tielo. Let me go do tielo. Let me go.
3G is great, 4G is better. You don't know what you're missing till you experience it. Upgrade to a 4G device and SIM, SMS Get to 141 to enjoy double data on Nigeria's widest 4G network.
Airtel, the smartphone network. Mars Medical Mission, MMM, is offering free services on a wide range of medical issues. Take advantage of these offers, especially by availing yourself of the National Cancer Prevention Program, NCPP. You can do so by coming for our Wellness Wednesday program at 31 Bode Thomas Street, Surulere, Lagos, every Wednesday from 7 a.m. You also have the opportunity of seeing the specialist and getting expert opinion on any health issues that may have been bothering you. Are you preparing to get married to your sweetheart? Then we have a pre-marital health program that will help you ensure that you start your married life on a healthy footing. Very important health screening and counseling will be made available for you and your partner. You can avail yourself of this opportunity by attending our pre-wedding Wednesday program from 7 a.m. For inquiries, send a mail to info@pinkcruise.org or log on to www.pinkcruise.org or call 0805-633-4288. Mission Pink Cruise, taking wellness to all.
Helen!
Hey, where's your mom?
Today is her toilet day.
What?
Helen!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow you're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with all this, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible!
Challenge? New Ticker Harpic 10X. Even if you use this solution 10 times, it won't give you the same cleaning like Harpic because its new Ticker formulation sticks to the bowl better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow!
New Harpic 10X
gives me the freedom from toilet day.
And the program is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Now let's turn to business. The Central Bank of Nigeria hints at revolution in tomato production as farmers and processors call for import restriction. Let's now join Kunle Adeye for details of this and more.
The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, assured tomato farmers of necessary support with the formal takeoff of Anchor Borers program for tomato production in the country. The CBN governor at a tomato processing factory in Kano State said the business will attract investors, encourage more people to embrace farming and create jobs, going by the initial daily production of 1 million tomato nurseries. The farmers want government to put in place some fiscal measures to protect the interests of local farmers, such as restriction on importation of tomato puree and other agri-produce. In another development, the Nigeria Customs Service has said it will introduce the use of technology and step up its anti-smuggling fight to improve on its revenue generation for 2019. Comptroller General of Customs Hamid Ali disclosed that this will enable the service to improve on its previous revenue generations.
First and foremost, our enforcement must be apt. If we can reduce smuggling to the barest minimum, I bet you that our revenue will skyrocket. So we are going to redouble our effort in fighting smuggling this year. We are looking forward to the deployment of non-intrusive equipment, and therefore goods will now be the values of goods will be properly assessed, and people will pay what they are supposed to pay.
Let's see how tradings went on Tuesday on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Thank you very much, Kunle Adeyeye, for the business package. Newspaper review is next for us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Now let's welcome Bayo Altoyabi, our newspaper reviewer. He's here again with us this morning. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Kirian. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, Bayo, good to see you. Kirian, we have, let's begin with you.
Yes, I have the Punch newspaper. Let's go to Punch newspaper for today. Above the nameplate of the Punch newspapers. Reduce cost of governance, RMFC urges federal government. And now below that, however, I am only seeking a second term, not more than that, says President Buhari. It's on page 42. Reject vote buying, U.S. tells Nigerians. You can capture that on page 43. Don't interfere with political process. Atiku secondis one security agent. Page 14 has details of that report. Now, the lead headline on the Punch newspaper this morning says, again, in fresh application, says CCT chairman's integrity in doubt. With rider, EFCC boss writes Buhari on suspended CJN. Page 2 has that story. Well, we have about 4 different photographs on the Punch newspaper. Of course, depicting some situations in Lagos. Well, commuters lament as falling containers cause gridlock on Lagos-Ibadan Road. It's on page 5. But just below that, we have Boko Haram attacks Adamawa Keys 3, touches clinics, shops. That's page 43. Corruption should not be trivialized for political advantage, says Shoyinka. It's on 25, page 25. Atiku's victory unstoppable with regional leaders' endorsement, says Saraki. That's on page 9. And at the foot of the Punch newspaper, Ganduje orders shutdown of Kano stadiums ahead of Atiku's rally. It's on page 44. Bandits kill Marafa's sister, 14 others in Zamfara state. Page 42. And I am surprised that Suki's security money was tagged illicit. That's from Banikoro, page 7.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper. Daily Sun, and the earpiece there beside the name flag says, fighting corruption, difficult. That's attributed to President Buhari. Details of that story on page 39. And there are political stories there. It says 2019, Nigeria votes, 10 days to February 16th. Atiku's victory assured, says Saraki. That's on page 12. And presidency blames PDP for poor economy. That's also on page 12. Now, the lead story says 2019 again, that's the kicker. EFCC uncovers funds for vote buying, says politicians bringing back loot to corrupt electoral process. That story is in greater detail on page 6. And the photograph there shows the former Liberian president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja yesterday. She's head of the ECOWAS Observer Mission to Nigeria. That's with regard to the elections beginning next weekend. Now, Igbo need presidency more than restructuring, says Kalu. And elections, U.S. urges religious and traditional leaders to douse tension. And CBN and EFCC direct banks to deny Rivers cash. Wike alleges. Magu can never give such order. That's according to details of that story can be found on page 41. Again, CBN, EFCC direct banks to deny Rivers cash. Wike alleges. Magu can never give such order, according to an aide. Gunmen killed Senator Marafa's sister. That story is on page 4.
Well, let's start with the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onoge, has filed an application before the Code of Conduct Tribunal seeking the chairman, Justice Danladi Umar, to disqualify himself. The motion, which was filed on Monday, is brought under Rule 12.1 and 11A of the revised Code of Conduct of the Judicial Officers 2016. The grounds are that the Code of Conduct Tribunal chairman has been indicted by the Economic and Financial Crime for an alleged bribery. The other interesting story is that the federal government has appealed to the labor over the minimum wage. Secretary to the government of the Federation made the appeal at the 12th National Delegate Conference of Nigeria Labour Congress at Abuja. Representing the president, Boss Mustafa said, government is determined to attain a decent work agenda that involve opportunities to work and also make life productive for workers and deliver fair income and security at workplaces. He called for the solidarity, for the protection of all families by seeking the cooperation of labor union. He said a technical advisory committee set up by the federal government is to advise on the actualization of the implementation of the wage increase. It is also to propose a work plan for implementing the wage increase so that at the end of the day, it will minimize inflation. Nigeria Labour Congress President Ayuba Waba enjoined government to revisit its 1 trillion fund for textile revitalization. He lamented that if that is done, it will go a long way in opening of avenues for domestic employment, particularly in the cotton textile industry. He also added that they should address the gap in the domestic cotton chain. He pointed out that textile factories in Nigeria used to be about 175, but today, hardly do we have 27 of them functioning. He cried also that initiatives should be put together to ensure that Ajaokuta comes on mainstream. Another issue he raised is that privatization, particularly that of electricity, should be revised because there's no benefit to Nigerians. It was at that venue that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission also informed them that looted funds abroad have now been brought back to induce electorate during the 2019 general elections. All right.
Thank you, Bayo. But let's go to the Nigerian pilot. Nigerian pilot for this morning. And below the nameplate we have, it's time for Northeast to produce a president, says Dogara. It's on page 5. And Ohaneze warns against clamp down on IPOB members. Now, the lead story is still on Onogen. Onogen to CCT chairman. You are corrupt. I will not appear before you. Describes Omar as a tainted arbiter. Says he entertained a motion ex parte, not moved by any prosecutor. Page 8 is where you find details of that report. Now, we have 2 photographs here. Each of them depicting the 2 lead political parties in Nigeria. On the left is the APC and on the right is the PDP. That's on the campaign trail. But below that, we have Buhari in Ekiti seeks support of traditional rulers for re-election. It's on page 9. With other striking headlines just at the foot of the Nigerian pilot. Atiku warns security agencies not to interfere with the electoral process. High Court disqualifies Ayo Ogueze as the Enugu APC gubernatorial candidate. It's on page 12. Now, we have read this before. Suspected bandits kill Senator Marafa's sister, abduct husband and child. It's on page 7. Fighting corruption difficult, but we shall overcome it, says President Buhari. It's on page 10 of the Nigerian pilot. And from Wike, he alleges CBN EFCC has directed banks to starve rivers of funds.
Yeah. All right, let me take the Daily Trust. Daily Trust, we begin with, well, this is pretty unusual for us in newspaper review segment. So we're reviewing an advert. What you find immediately below the nameplate there is an advert, but it's a public service advert, just from the Independent National Electoral Commission. It says, collection of PVCs ends on Friday, February 8th, 2019. That is in 2 days' time. And that those who have not collected their PVCs could visit INEC local government office to collect their PVC from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily. Now, the lead story for the paper says states budgeted 12 trillion naira for salaries in 4 years. And you can see the illustration on the front page of the paper there through the use of infographics, the various states that budgeted money. And one of the sidebars there indicates what 11.91 trillion naira could do if not otherwise used for salaries. And the wage bill is also indicated there. It's done also by zones or regions, if you like, northwest, north central, northeast, southeast, south-south, and the southwest. Gunmen, this story, of course, is on the papers, the killing of Senator Marafa's sister and 25 others in Zamfara. Buhari, we should learn from those who failed to get third term. That's on page 13. And, of course, you have the copy there indicating how many days to go before voting commences.
Yes.
Lion.
Yes, it started development in Zamfara again. Armed bandits burned down 3 villages and took a hostage of 5 women. One of them is the sister of Senator Kabiru Marafa. Unfortunately, she was killed. Her husband too who is a village head, was spared. However, it's been ongoing, and the security agencies seem to be at their on their trail. The interesting development is the issue you raised by INEC announcement, 2 days for collection of PVCs. Now, would there be an exemption for Abia? You remember at Sialangwa, PVCs were burnt in the toilet, and the resident electoral commissioner has confirmed that 319 of the PVCs were partially burnt, and 4,200 were burnt completely. He had assured that there will be a reprint and a reissue for them so that they will not be disenfranchised. Now, what will happen? Will there be an extension to accommodate? Because that is a serious...
Yeah, very pertinent point you have raised, Bayo. That would be that's an exceptional circumstance. And therefore, the deadline to say collect your PVCs by Friday will not apply to those. But of course, those PVCs that were not burnt could still be collected, and those that were partially burnt could still be used. Just all that will be required will be for the instructions to be given to the electoral officers. If the key features of a PVC, depending on how partially, the extent of the partial burn on the PVC, it will still be used. I think that's a very pertinent point you have raised, Bayo.
And many Nigerians are also asking this question of the deadline being Friday. We have a whole week, before the election. Wouldn't that be possible to, move it on to perhaps Wednesday for a few days to the election? What is wrong with that? It's not just collection.
Don't forget that INEC came out with a 20-point agenda, and it has been in the public domain. And the INEC is following it step by step. And each time, they are always announced in advance. The stampede nature of our people. People always wait until the last minute. I can assure you in the next 2 days, there will be a run-on the INEC offices with the stampede to collect the PVCs. But the INEC cannot continue to postpone the collection indefinitely. They, for a long time, indicated that the PVC collection will stop 2 weeks before the election. In fact, apparently from the deadline they have given now, it's going to even stop later than they had earlier indicated.
Okay.
There is also this interesting story from Jos. It is coming from the Archbishop of Jos, Reverend Ignatius Kaigama. He says Nigerians have been enjoined to distance themselves from politics of tribe, religion, and denomination. The Archbishop of Jos said he was speaking at a one-day roundtable meeting between Christian and Muslim leaders in Jos. He called for political sanity and justice. He said sanity and justice is the requirement for all the electorate, for electoral officers, for the security agents, for political leaders, and all actors. He says politics should be played without bitterness, and people should avoid any moves that could give rise to conflict and needless violence. He says at the end of the day, whether winner or loser, the electorate and all concerned, we must all join hands to build one solid nation. He says Nigeria is the project that all of us must put our hands on the deck to promote peaceful coexistence. I think this is very instructive for politicians because tempers are beginning to rise. Campaigns now are going from issues and degenerating to personal attacks, and that is not healthy.
You see, it's not new in this country that when it comes to politics, the polity itself is overheated by what you've just mentioned, the people taking religious lines, ethnic lines, and what have you. I read a story yesterday in the social media where somebody was telling a story about how his car got bombed, and that many Nigerians rallied around him, so about 11 different firefighting fire extinguishers, and he said, look, he saw Musa, he saw Adiola, he saw, it's like many Nigerians came to rescue him. Yes. Without any, feeling of where you come from. So he was trying to tell a story that, look, that we are one. And when it comes to such issues, we always rally around to assist ourselves. But when it comes to politics, you begin to hear where somebody comes from, where you come from and what religion and all of that. So that's part of the problem that we have in the country.
Go to where Nigerians are watching the Super Eagles or the Fly Eagles play. You won't know any differences. But when it comes to politics, the price of our elite is that when their interest is threatened, they tend to use all those primordial sentiments as a matter of division, and they cause grave lines between the various cultural ethnic groups. Yes.
All right, Bayo, thank you. Let's go to the editorial this morning. It's from the New Telegraph newspaper, IGP and reorganization of SARS. Of course, the order by the Acting Inspector General of Police, IGP, Mr. Mohammed Adamu, for the decentralization of operations of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, FARS, unit, hardly came to many Nigerians as a surprise. Bayo.
Yes, you will recall that following complaints from members of the public, the SY IGP centralized the activities of Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, and the new Acting Inspector General of Police has decentralized the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad. That is not to overemphasize the fact that the Federal Anti-Special Robbery Squad was effective. But however, they almost were becoming a law unto themselves in some parts of the country because the commissioners in the state did not have command control over them. What the new IGP has restored is to restore command control to the commissioners in the state. However, the overall control at the headquarters is domiciled in the office of the DIG at the headquarters. But be that as it may, the editorial is saying that the police high command should go from initial pronouncement of that has been made into putting some of those things into practical actions. And they have raised concern that apart from the special, there's also special investigation panel that were centralized and attached to the office of the Inspector General of Police. There was also the reorganization of the police mobile force as well as counter-terrorism unit, which were all domiciled specifically to the office of the Inspector General of Police. The editorial is now saying that apart from the initial pronouncement by the new Inspector General of Police, action should follow, and this decentralization should be carried out so that the police high command will have a new lease of life in the direction that has been indicated.
Okay, Bayo, that's straight to the point. Thank you very much for being with us today. See you again tomorrow. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria, still on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll take on our discussion segment.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Sore throat, it's often caused by bacteria and viruses. Feels like they're having a party. You need Strepsils. It soothes the pain, plus it fights the germs with 2 germ-killing actives. Double power in 1 lozenge. Bye-bye sore throat. Take Strepsils.
Mrs. Williams, where do all these young people go to every day?
Don't bother yourself about them. These young ones, they have their peculiar ways. Do you want to know?
Here comes one of them. Young man, you go in batches every day here. Where do you go to?
It's the N-Power training, ma.
And what's that?
The N-Power is an initiative of the federal government for young graduates and those interested in skill acquisition. After the training, the government empowers them to make sure that they understand their business and also train others.
Wow.
After the training, the government will also give them 30,000 naira for 2 years and also help them so that they can also train others.
Wow, it's interesting.
After my training, I hope I'll be able to own my own big fish farm and also train others.
Wow. That's wonderful.
It is.
And this government is really doing great.
I'm telling you.
I have to get my son to register for N-Power.
N-Power, a federal government initiative for job creation for the Nigerian youth. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
And we thank you for staying with us. Now, let's set the tone for our discussion on armed forces and national sacrifice with reactions from Nigerians on the issue. They spoke with our correspondent, Aisha Obali.
Well, not everybody understands the war sacrifice. But those who have an understanding of the war sacrifice can go any length to make sacrifice so that the reason by which they made the sacrifice will be achieved. I think our military or the armies, many of them had made a lot of sacrifices. And we need to appreciate that. And whatever we can do to encourage them so that they will not look at it as something worthless.
In fact, I feel for them because they're also human beings like us. Although they have special training, but in the course of discharging their duty, they do lose their lives. And they have wives, they have children. What I would advise as civilians, we should be able to sympathize with their families, especially the children they left behind and their wives also, because their parents sacrificed their lives for us to stay in peace.
As a matter of fact, everywhere meaning Nigerian should be able to appreciate the work of the military. They are human beings like us, but we see them like iron. All right, they are never iron, they are human beings. Blood runs in their vein. If they can take the bull by the horn to say, yes, I want to die for my country to be safe. Any person who carried arm, who carried a rifle, has already surrendered his life. Who is protecting that person? All right, it's very painful that this nation is not giving to the armed forces what is due for them, considering their own security and their household. Some of them do not understand it quite all right. Most of the people, they just go there because of the job opportunity, all right? Then when they get there, it becomes a different ball game. But for those that have the orientation that knows what they are going there for, they appreciate it.
Well, joining us now in the studios to discuss this further, I would like to welcome Major General Wahab Garba Ayodeji. Ayodeji was former GOC, that's General Officer Commanding 1st Division in Kaduna, and also in the course of his service, he was Chief of Army Administration. General Ayodeji, pleasure to have you in Good Morning, Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Also here with us in the studios, Air Commodore Yusuf Anas. He, at some point, of course, was the Director of Public Relations and Information of the Nigerian Air Force. Air Commodore Anas, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you for inviting us.
And we have also from our Lagos studio, Captain Ali Umar, retired. He's a security expert. It's a pleasure to have you on our program this morning.
All right, gentlemen, you listened to the views expressed by some Nigerians in the background report put together by our correspondent Aisha Ubali. Let's begin this way. Is membership of the armed forces just another job? Probably, you know, the right kind of question to ask, but I mean, is it just those who get into the armed forces, is it because they're looking for a job? And if so, what kind of job? Let's begin with General Ayodeji.
Thank you very much for your question. Well, maybe of recent, you might have a situation where you will say people are looking for a job. It's not, and that is not even true for virtually everybody that comes in. In the yesteryears, the jobs were available. I finished from the University of Lagos, had other opportunities to go elsewhere. But since my secondary school life, I've decided I was joining the military. So it was a voluntary thing and no compulsion, nobody. So it's not just looking for a job. It's you having the mind of being a professional soldier. And the training, even if you want to come in looking for a job, the initial training will definitely wield out those who are just looking for a job. Because once you go through the training, either for 6 months or for 9 months or for 3 years, 5 years now in NDA, definitely if you are looking for a job, you take off. So it's not just a matter of looking for a job, it's people who actually want to be professional.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Actually, from your explanation, I can deduce one or two things. But let's go to Air Commodore Yusuf Anas this time around. And from what he has said, I understand that service in the military is a function of patriotism and the willingness, you know, to sacrifice for the security of a nation. Nigerians have done that, not just to secure the territorial integrity of Nigeria, but also elsewhere, you know, in wars that happened even in the 60s, the Congo War, the Burma War, the Second World War, and what have you. Now, for a man to identify that his calling is to serve in the military, is it to occupy himself as a job, as Kingsley rightly asked, or does something propel such person to identify that sector as where he could play a role in the country?
Thank you very much. Let me go back to the last questions raised by your colleague. As regards the reasons why people join the military, I will give an example from my experience. When I finished from the secondary school, that time in Kaduna, I was always fascinated when I see NDA cadets, you know, when they go out, you know, sharply dressed with their flume, moving around, very smart. For me, that was the attraction. That is why I decided to join the military through the NDA. So you see, it's not the issue of just because you wanted a job. You have to have an interest and passion to be able to be in the military. Now, coming back to the issue of patriotism, the training the military go through, whether at the training schools, whether at the NDA or recruit training, other training institutions, all along the way, the impression is always created in you, and they make you imbibe that in your mind, that you must remain patriotic, loyal, and dedicated to the service and to serve your country. Because it is always said that it should be an honor for you to be able to serve your fatherland and even be ready to lay down your life for the fatherland, for the safety and security of the country and the people in the country.
All right, Air Commodore Anas, thank you very much. Let's go back to our Lagos Network Center, where we earlier introduced Captain Aliyu Umar, of course, who is a regular face on Good Morning Nigeria whenever we're discussing security concerns. Captain Umar, of course, he retired from the Nigerian Army. Same question to you. In the absence of a provision for conscription, is membership, voluntary membership of the armed forces, a search for just another job? Or what could be the other motivation?
Being a soldier is a way of life. It's not something you decide to take on because you want to earn a salary. As General Wahab said, if you went into the army at cadet level because your eyes were on a good pay package, the 60 months I spent there will burn that out of you. You'll probably know easier things to do to make even much more than you'll ever make serving. So being a soldier is a passion-driven thing. It's a thing that grows, and the moment you go in there, it even grows deeper. It goes deeper. You will go through things that deliberately is meant to test your will, probably outrightly discourage you. And as the general said, the training period is like a curing period to actually get all of that out of you. If you actually came there because you had other motives or because you wanted a job that would pay you an income, it's more than that. It's a way of life. It's something you have to give up virtually everything for. And if you have no passion for it, as soon as you get in there, you just know that you are not cut out for this. So it's not a job-seeking thing. It's a passion-driven thing.
You know, it does seem that if you are not driven by passion to be in the army, you fall by the wayside. Because I know that not all that enrolled in NDA, for instance, graduated from there.
That's true.
Some.
That's true. That's another point to pursue further with General Ayodeji, because he was the first to open up on that angle. Now we understand that there is an allowance, if you like, for percentage dropout or percentage losses in the course of training, either at the NDA or at the military depot. But why not getting into, the issues of doctrine and so on and so forth? What is it that it's a potential soldier imbibes that changes his orientation or deepens that initial passion which he earlier had?
Thank you very much. You see, from the day you come in, whether in depot, any of the services depot or ND or any of the air training locations, from the gate, you have some form of talking to, mentoring. Nobody will leave you on your own. You are not on your own. So you are allowed to see your seniors moving around. They don't have any business with you. They motivate you. You have somebody who is senior to you, who is placed above you. You're under his tutelage to take you through. And he talks to you on a regular basis. And so you are allowed to grow. You are allowed to develop more and more into the system. Nobody is going to compel you. But yes, if you are looking for a job, like has been said, it's very easy, you'll have to go out. But if you are passionate about what you're doing, over time, the passion is increased and your ability to perform is improved. And the belief is we will the civil mentality out over a period of time. Before you know it, you now start looking at yourself and say, look, this is me. And the more you train, the belief is you sweat more in peacetime to bleed less in war or in operation. But then you know that you signed for life. Whatever happens, it's your own violation to join. And so, if you are not driven by passion, if you are looking for money, you don't want to die because that money is the basis of you joining to start with. So when the money is not forthcoming, initially, how much was the salary of an average soldier? As a captain, I was earning 200 and something naira. When somebody who lived with me, who stayed with me, and finished his university and joined a bank, was earning more than 10,000 naira. My salary was 279 naira, 50 kobo. And this was somebody, by far my junior, who finished university years after I finished, and he was earning more than 10,000 naira. So it is not money. So if you're actually looking for money, you don't come in.
Yes, obviously, the fact that it's a profession driven by passion and, of course, the willingness to, of course, serve your nation, it does not really mean that men and women in the military service do not really like to be well paid to take care of their immediate family because they also have responsibilities. Now, my question is, has there been a point in your life, for instance, in the course of serving this nation, that you realize that, yes, this is a passion, but you also need, to be financially empowered to take care of your immediate family?
Thank you. You see, after you have gone through the normal training and even graduated from and joined the services, whether the Army, Navy, Air Force, having gone through that grooming, and you are sent into the various units and formations. You see, what the services try to do is to ensure that almost all your basic needs are taken care of in the immediate instance. For instance, once you go to any particular unit or formation, they try to make sure that you have accommodation, where you have basic essentials of life, light, water, and other facilities that will make your stay very comfortable. You don't have to start thinking or any salary that will go and pay housing, light, and other things. So the barracks makes it very comfortable after having gone through the training. In order not to make you go outside the barracks to start mingling with the populace, they confine you so that you continue to imbibe that military spirit in you. So the barracks is made comfortable so that officers and soldiers stay together, they think alike, train together, do capacity building, and through that, they continue to have that esprit, build what we call the esprit de corps amongst one another. And that helps in making sure that you also have that patriotism in you. So the barracks is made very comfortable for all the officers and soldiers to be able to stay together. So even if your take-home pay is not much, you will still be comfortable because you have other basic amenities which outside environment will not provide for you.
Okay, Air Commodore Nas, thanks a lot. Captain Omar, back to you in Lagos. Before I return to the question of welfare and sacrifice, just tell us something about the psychological makeup of that young individual at the point of entry who decides to join the armed forces. Psychologists, of course, will tell you that there are different personality types. You find persons who are bold, you find persons who are timid, you find persons who will take flight, at the earliest sign of trouble. So, Captain Omar, you are smiling. So, for the young man, and then, of course, the gentleman and officer that he becomes, who is in the armed forces, what is it in the psychological makeup that tells you, what is it defending? Why is it doing this job?
Well, basically, psychologically, we human beings fall into 4 basic types. That is the choleric, the sanguine, the melancholic, and the phlegmatic. There is no human who is typically one. You blend at least any of those 2. So soldiers, recruits, if you like, or cadets, fall into those 4 categories, whether consciously or otherwise. And there are 2 things that drive a cadet. I'm using myself as an example now. There are 2 things that drive a cadet who is just coming into the academy. And the first one is curiosity. And other than curiosity, the second one, as I've told you, is passion. Now, you have a passion for military service, and you are a bit curious about what exactly is there. And that curiosity and the passion drives you right through the gates. And you go and do whatever you have to do to scale through the hurdles to eventually become a cadet. Now, from my own first day in the academy, I can tell you that deliberately, very deliberately, you're going to see people who will challenge your confidence levels. And that's the first hurdle. For those who do not actually have a passion, you're going to get scared and run away. Your confidence levels will be challenged, and having challenged your confidence levels, training starts. Training is basically what the psychologists will call auto-suggestion. Auto-suggestion is repetition. In the army, we call it regimentation. You do the same thing the same way all the time, every time, until it becomes a habit. So unconsciously, within your first 6 months in the academy, you will actually graduate from being you to a soldier. And those who are close to you will begin to say, this man has changed. No, you haven't really changed. You've just transformed from that raw material civilian cadet boy to a soldier. And that's why I said it's a way of life. Everything you do about everything you do in life is regimented. So that young man who goes into service actually comes and he's actually broken, not in the physical sense of breaking now. You know, if you take a horse, for example, if you want to prepare a horse for a polo game, when you bring them in from the wilderness, you have to break them. They have to be able to know exactly what to do and recognize instructions. And that's the system in the academy. It's built in such a way that without compulsion, you're going to see yourself trend with the flow. The entire course, over 100 people, will be doing the same thing at the same time. And if you do it differently, even just by a finger's movement, you stand out. That's regimentation. And that's where the discipline starts. So for every young man, given our age then, and of course we were agile and exuberant, it was adventurous. But adventurous because underneath the background had passion and curiosity. So without those 2 things, if you found yourself walking through the gates of the academy then, either because your dad was a big man somewhere, the training doesn't know your dad. You will climb the same rope that poor man's son will climb. And the instructors don't give a hoot. You're either going to climb his rope or you are not going to climb his rope. One of 2 will happen. So if you are not driven, the brunt of training, the sheer test, the rigor behind it will burn you out. But if you are driven, the more you do, the more you want to do because you are curious. I hope I have answered your question.
Okay, we'll return to you actually in the course of this conversation for other aspects, of the topic that actually need to be further dissected. But for now, let's come back to Major General Wahab Garba Ayudeji. Now, my question is this: we have talked about being patriotic. We have talked about the willingness to sacrifice yourself, to defend the nation. But the question is, are Nigerians really appreciative of, the input of the military, to sustain the nation as an entity, right? Not just the military anyway, the armed forces now. You have been a GOC. That means you have gathered experience over the years in terms of managing your men and, of course, the public, so to speak, because, of course, there's usually military and civilian relationship, in every environment. Now, are Nigerians appreciative of this level of patriotism exhibited, by the Nigerian armed forces?
Thank you very much. You see, the word appreciation, we've broken into different segments. Appreciation by the government to support you in doing what you're doing, to provide the basic requirements. Now, from the past, when the budget is released, the first thing is, oh, why is defense getting this? Agric is getting this, education is getting this, science is getting this. We always fail to realize one thing. Without security, there can't be development. You must be secure before you start thinking of development. And in the world, generally, there is the theory of realism. That is, whatever you do is based on your might, and that might is measured by military power you have. And we Nigerians don't understand that. So the first appreciation, the government. The second level of appreciation, the general public. For you to understand what these guys are doing and respect them for what they are, and give them their due respect. I was a junior officer, I went on course in US. During break time, I left my school in Anniston, Alabama, and I drove downtown to buy something in one of the malls. When I finished, I wanted to pay, and I saw a large crowd, queue. I wanted to drop the item and go away. They said, no, everybody moved aside. You are too busy. Please go ahead, go and pay. Here in Nigeria, nobody will do that for you. Believe it, you are doing your job, I'm doing my own job. So what's the big deal? So the public must understand what these guys are doing. And now that they are actually doing other people's job, they're actually policing Nigeria beyond the military calling. 3, there are other organizations, companies, and whatever that need to assist, to appreciate whatever they're doing. Some have done that in the past. For instance, some airlines had given rebates and whatever. But 1 or 2 instances where abuses came in, then the military itself must appreciate itself. When I mean appreciate itself, showcase what you're doing. Let people understand you. We live in a close-knitted society. It must be open a little bit for people to have a glimpse as to what the military entails. And that will bring respect. They will bring understanding for people to know what you need and your requirements. Not when the president said, I'm releasing $1 billion to procure some necessary equipment. And people shouted, why should you give them $1 billion? Are these guys supposed to use their salary to buy the equipment they are to use against Boko Haram? That's a massive issue. But to me, I think it goes in different ways. Appreciation comes in different forms. And everybody needs to understand, what is my role? If I'm appreciating somebody, what do I do to show level of appreciation? From government, corporate organizations, individuals, and then the military itself. Expose yourself, showcase yourself, appreciate yourself. Let people know what you're doing. Once in a while, I was given an award. It was only within the military they know that I have these awards. People don't understand. If you say you have PSC dagger, what is PSC dagger? The average man does not know what PSC dagger means. So we need to do more. Expose 1 or 2 of our activities for people to understand. And it will go a long way in bringing everybody on the same level. Even other security agencies, if they don't understand what you're doing, the tendency is for them to look at, oh, you are doing my job. Why should you be doing police job? In reality, the man will not pack himself out of the barracks. If the president did not give the go-ahead and the National Assembly did not sanction, they won't go out. So everybody needs to understand what the whole thing is all about and their job, their responsibilities for everybody.
All right, General Ayodeji, thank you very much. We'll continue with that line when we return from this short break.
Brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three put
you are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah?
You take that one.
Yeah.
Take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mobu to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Getting around heartburn and indigestion can be tricky if you eat too much. Eat food that is too spicy or greasy, or lie down after eating. Heartburn and indigestion could always be around the corner. When they come, be prepared with Gaviscon Double Action. It works within 3 minutes and lasts up to 8 hours. Gaviscon Double Action. Many causes, one solution.
Here you go.
Madam.
That's it. Those nails are enough.
Hi, dear. Helen! You got so much even after spending so little.
Savings is such a necessity.
You save everywhere, but here, you lose it all.
How?
With this?
Impossible.
New Tika Apic 10X. Even after applying up to 1 liter of your solution multiple times, you won't get the same cleaning that Apic gives you in a single round.
And the expense?
Far less compared to your 1 liter of solution. New Tika Apic. Tough in cleaning,
tough in savings.
Guy, what's up with all these jerry cans that you are gathering?
Oh.
Water is running in the tap.
The jerry cans is not for water. I want to get some fuel.
Fuel?
Yeah.
What for?
There is always a fuel scarcity around the Yuletide season.
Oh, no, that's a thing of the past. The government has told us that they have made available all these petroleum products, and we are not going to suffer it even in the Yuletide season.
And how are they going to go about it?
The government has made available a lot of money to the petroleum product marketers, and they have also reached an agreement that the product will be available anytime, any day.
Oh, an agreement has been made.
Oh, yes. Even as I was driving down from my village, all the filling stations I saw on the way were having fuel.
Oh, in that case, I wouldn't be needing these jerry cans again. And I can also attend my cousin's traditional wedding in the village without the fear of fuel scarcity.
It's not only you that will be going there. We shall be attending it together.
Constant availability of petroleum products nationwide, another achievement of the federal government. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's bring in now Air Commodore Yusuf Anas. Just before we went on that short break, General Ayodeji provided what he called a quadrant of appreciation from, first, he says the government itself, the ordinary citizen, corporate entities, and the military being appreciated. What are your thoughts in this regard?
First of all, the military also appreciates the fact that they are being kept together because of the taxpayers' money, because they have a specific job which the Constitution has provided for them to ensure the security and safety of the territorial integrity of the nation. The public really support the government and also the military in whatever they are doing, especially regards a lot of issues of security that are affecting the country. But oftentimes there is lack of information, and I feel that is where the role of the media comes in. I want to believe that although the media is trying very much to be able to acquaint the public with what the military is doing, but I think there is the need for more enlightenment and coverage of some of the military activities that is doing across the nation, because over the years, you know, the Nigerian military have been involved in in several security operations within and outside the country, which Nigeria has even been internationally recognized in some peacekeeping operations in different parts of the world. But currently we have a lot of youths who are not really aware of some of the exploits, some of the achievements which the military have recorded in the past. You know, even within the country, years back since the Nigerian Civil War, you know, some of the youths that we have now have not known some of the sacrifices made by the Nigerian military, you know, in keeping Nigeria one up to 1970 when the Civil War ended. Subsequently, the military was involved in different set of peacekeeping operations across the country. Most of the people would think it is just the current fight against Boko Haram that is keeping maybe what the military is doing. But if we go down memory lane, we would have seen that the military has really been doing a lot, which the media should help to also inform the public so that they will be able to continue to appreciate what the military is doing.
Okay, thank you. Let's return to Lagos, to Captain Ali Umar, retired. Let me take this aspect of the question from the concept of government appreciation as raised by Major General Wahab Ayodeji. In terms of government appreciation of the military, one would think that it has to begin with the real good equipment, equipping the military to be able to function effectively and efficiently. Now, are you satisfied with the kind of support from the government in the past 20 years with respect to equipping the armed forces? From what General Wahab said, in America, for instance, in their budget, number one is defense, followed by science and technology to drive the defense. And again, it has to do with equipment, war, armaments, and ammunition. Now, in this level of appreciation I'm talking about from the part of government in terms of equipping the armed forces, are you satisfied? Because when Boko Haram issue broke out, we discovered that Nigeria had nothing to fight that group that I may refer to as a ragtag army. You cannot compare them to Nigerian armed forces. But, you know, we had to fight so hard to even procure, you know, what we used to start the fight with Boko Haram, and that made them to even gain, the positions, into Nigeria's territory. So let's talk about this appreciation with respect to equipping the army, for them to, for their patriotism, to be felt in terms of, winning at wars.
In terms of appreciation from the government spectrum now, I wouldn't say I'm satisfied. We are not there yet. And the reason is simple. Armies are very expensive to keep and sustain, particularly in times of adversity, like we do have in the Northeast. For the average Nigerian to understand what I'm saying, it could take hundreds of millions of dollars to procure equipment, and that equipment can be destroyed in seconds. Maybe 60 seconds will even be an elongated period. One explosion takes it out. So you can imagine the turnover if you lose such equipment. And of course, war is about destruction. Put another way, it's about destruction. So the chances are high that you go into combat with equipment, and at best, if you don't lose them, there must be some element of wear and tear. And so you have to see your armed forces become what financial analysts will call a cost center. A lot of money goes in there, but it's not actually yielding or generating profit. And so the government has to sustainably ensure that the armed forces is kept at par, at the very least at par. It can never be suboptimal with what the adversary has. So if you want to actually take the upper hand, you have to ensure that whatever your adversary is capable of having, you should be able to have 2 levels above or even 3. Having said that, you begin to see that the challenges that the armed forces faces, whether in or out of combat itself, is driven by where we are coming from and the kind of people we have evolved to be. Most people do not really understand that in a democracy, the citizen has rights, the armed forces too have rights. The armed forces are an integral part of a democracy. And when the citizens behave in certain ways that begin to look like threats in a democracy, the armed forces will naturally exercise its rights too. Even though these rights are not as fluid as that which the average citizen out there has, but these rights can actually be invoked by the commander-in-chief, and the armed forces will be deployed. So what am I trying to say here? Appreciation for our armed forces itself is not coming the way it should, because 102 million Nigerians are youth, last time I checked with the Bureau of Statistics. And the last time history was taught in our schools was like 20 years ago. So they don't even know anything about the history of this country, much less the armed forces, because we don't even teach history again. And you now begin to see why they cannot begin to appreciate our armed forces. It's not their fault. You don't know what you don't know. How we manage to get history of the curriculum of our schools, I don't know, but that's the fact. They don't do history in schools. Last time I checked anyway, I don't know if that has been restored. So you discover that if you don't really know what informed the existence, the essential being of the armed forces, you're most likely going to do what we see today in Nigeria. You see them as an occupation force, not an integral part of this democracy we have. In fact, a democracy cannot be complete without its armed forces. It cannot. That's why the president wears 2 hats. The first as the president and the second as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces in any democracy. So basically what we are looking at is funding for the armed forces is largely going to be very challenging. It's a cost center. But if I can put it in a way the average Nigerian will understand, you are better off eating only 2 meals a day and having a very strong defense line than having no defense line at all and eating 3 meals a day. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just trying to underscore the importance of ensuring you are protected in the kind of world we live in today. Our neighbors do not actually respect us because of anything other than our armed forces. Our peers abroad do not respect us, or rather, let me say, the threats that will be willing to walk in here and take over our home space are not staying out there and being kept at bay because of anything other than the armed forces. So the way and manner we propagate these armed forces will actually make the threat bolder or less bolder. And if you look at the last 6 years, we have actually lampooned the armed forces, sometimes credibly so, sometimes unnecessarily so. But then you also see a commensurate boldness in the ambience of the kinds of threats we have been seeing. I know armed forces in the world today whose image is larger than life. The things they are told or we are told they do are by far exceeding what they actually do on ground. I was live in the armed forces of Nigeria when some bigger armed forces feared to tread the grounds of Liberia and Sierra Leone, and we moved in as a smaller one, in quotes. We were meant to be smaller, but we went and did it. So if you do not propagate your armed forces and you lampoon them, your adversary gets bolder and it becomes a bit more visible. So we really need to ensure that our armed forces are appreciated. That's a lot of work to be done, both from the armed forces and from the citizenry and from the government. But I tell you, as far as federal government an appreciation or sponsoring or financing of the armed forces is concerned, there is still more work to be done. Despite the fact that monies are being questioned, they can be released and tracked, and results will actually be made to, match the expenses incurred.
All right, Captain Ali Umar, once again, thank you very much for the perspective you brought to these questions, of course, along with your other colleagues, General and Air Commodore, who are here with us on the studios. You were talking about the study of history, and of course, as always, you put in a caveat, just assuming that you were not up to date with the requisite information. On Good Morning Nigeria, sometime in 2016, I believe, we took on the subject of the elimination of history from the curriculum in our schools. And after a while, the federal government directed that same year for the reinstatement of history as a subject of study in schools. All right, so we had a number of historians and professors who joined us on that occasion. Captain Ali Umar, thanks. We'll be back to you shortly. Let's come back now to General Ayodeji. General Ayodeji, again, I would like to return the question of patriotism, of course, the linkage with sacrifice. The quadrant that you sketched, the government, that's what Captain Ali just elaborated on, the private citizens, and then, of course, corporate entities and the military itself. But amongst other things, while elaborating on that, you did say that it might be useful for the military itself to open up slightly so that there's a better appreciation of what it does. Air Commodore Anna says, listen, the media should help. The media should help. But there's a limit to what the media can do in helping. We have our own historical challenges in our relationship with the military. That's to say civilian-military relations. But how much openness is permissible? What exactly would you like to see in terms of better appreciation of what the armed forces are doing? But I'll tell you straight away, you can go to the street and take a view. Unless there is nearness of threat or danger, everybody sees Boko Haram, for instance, as being, just here some distance away, whether it's Ran, whether it's Baga, Calabarge, or wherever. But if you were to come to the city, everybody says, oh, where are the military? Where are the military? So what would you like to see done? And what would you like to see happen?
Yeah, to me, it does not mean we need to carry the average Nigerian maybe to Maiduguri or to Borno, Adama, or Yobe, where these activities are taking place. A lot of activities are taking place that, yes, like Commodore Anna said, the media could be invited. Even when we were planning for operations, at the beginning, at the commencement, before you go into the nitty-gritty, the media could be exposed. This is what we're trying to do, not giving out information. I'm not saying somebody carry an entire information and put it on newspapers or flash it. No. But the beginning, at the commencement, even in the US, we have what is called comprehensive approach to warfare nowadays, which everybody globally we've all adopted. What is done is the media is embedded into whatever is happening. And to a large extent, they assist in telling you that, look, when you are planning, this information, if you believe it's coming from this area, it is not possible. This will not open up to you. They assist you in the planning because the trust has been built over time. We need to start building trust between the armed forces and the media. Without the trust, everybody will be looking at each other with suspicion. So you must build trust, you must open up, invite these guys to come and see whatever you're doing, and once in a while, extend an arm of friendship to them. It goes a long way. We have the civil military affairs in virtually all the services and defense headquarters. What are these guys doing? They need to get out of their offices and relate more with the media. You have the information and media departments in virtually all the services. They need to do more. So the challenge is more on those who are media practitioners within the armed forces to find ways by which they can engage their counterpart outside. And that way you balance off a lot of things. You are doing something. For instance, in Kaduna, I was there in the process of performing our activities. Then once in a while, you call in the media to tell them, these are the things you've done, and these are the reasons why these steps are to be taken. Otherwise, you have problems. The Nigerian Bar Association in 2012 threatened to take me as the GOC and one div to court over the arrest of somebody. And I called the MBA and some other people. Let's have a stakeholders meeting. We sat down, met, and I explained to them. This man was taken out, was arrested simply because they were planning to attack social place. Oh, you should have told us. I can't tell you. If I tell you, the information will be leaked. But what I needed to do, which I didn't do initially, was to find a way of letting people know that there might be one or two things happening. And that's one of the things the armed forces are trying to correct nowadays. That's why you have the civil military affairs in all the services and the departments. And a lot of job needs to be done. We are not getting it right because the suspicion of the past are still there. We need to overcome the suspicion and build trust. Without trust, we can't get anywhere.
And actually, from all indications, the armed forces lately have actually been talking to the media, trying to let people know what is happening. At a point, remember, from the Northeast, we've had live coverages, of events taking place in that area, in the war theater, telling Nigerians.
Good Morning Nigeria has also been embedded at some point, in the operations in the Northeast, yes.
Okay, now, gentlemen, it's clear that some of our men and women have actually paid the ultimate price in the course of defending this nation and in some peacekeeping operations across the globe. Now, what happens thereafter? One of the respondents, in the report that we showed before the commencement of this conversation, did say that. What happens to the children and the wife, or perhaps the husband or children of, if it's a female that died? Now, what happens thereafter? Are they really properly taken care of? How are they taken? I don't know what, I know that, of course, there must be some money to be paid to the next of kin. But in most cases, next of kin are not the wives and mother of the children that the man is leaving behind. It could be his elder brother, as the case may be. So that's another aspect of this conversation. I would like Captain Ali Umar, I would like Yusuf Anas to entertain.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very sensitive and touchy question that borders on the welfare of the families of the officers and soldiers in the barracks. But let me first say that there are provisions in the Armed Forces Act that provides that any deceased personnel has certain benefits that are due to him or to his family once he is deceased. First of all, there is a token sum that is paid immediately on getting the news of that a deceased person's family will get. But the provision in the Armed Forces Act provides that the family will continue to collect the salary or pension of the deceased personnel for a period of up to a maximum of 5 years. Also, the provision is there in the Act that the children of the deceased personnel will be given educational opportunities. They will be paid for by the government for a number of, for up to 4 children who will be trained up to the age of 18. So, but that is what is in the provision. But I tell you that it's really not adequate, given the experiences that we have seen when you go into the barracks to mingle with some of the diseased personnel's wives and children. Right now, I tell you, there are a lot of widows in the barracks that cannot really even move out because these personnel have died and they have not really provided maybe homes where they can move out and stay. So there are a lot of widows in the barracks. Sometimes the entitlements, although things are being modified and improved so that they get the entitlements so that they can quickly go and settle down, and the educational opportunities the government has accepted to provide for that period are made available. But I think this is where the public, the appreciation I feel, should come in this direction. The members of the public, especially big organizations or companies, can come into the barracks and see what they can do to assist diseased families that are in the barracks. Especially we have some umbrella organizations that are in the barracks. For instance, we have the Nigerian Army Officers' Wives Association, we have the Air Force Wives Officers Association, and the Navy too. They try to support some of these diseased families and their children by providing them with some support, but it's never adequate. So I feel the public can show appreciation by coming to support some of these organizations and giving scholarships to families' children, giving them other training, some kind of succor to cushion the effect of losing a dear one in the service of the country.
All right, Commodore Anas, thank you very much. The concern of service personnel when, of course, they are no longer around. What happens to members of the family? Air Commodore Anas has raised a point here, which again falls within the quadrant already sketched by General Ayodeji. Let's say, look, what we are getting now is not enough, but we could do with more from citizens and indeed corporate organizations. But for philanthropy to kick in from citizens and the corporate entities, there must also be a mindset. And some persons have often raised this question or this issue, that there is this lingering antagonism between the military and the civilians, oftentimes described as, you know, bloody civilians. You were talking about the rights doctrine a moment ago, that the military have their rights, the civilians also have their rights, but in the U.S., you are unlikely to hear the military personnel refer to civilians as, you know, bloody civilians. So that lingering antagonism, some will say, is an impediment to the kind of philanthropic gestures that ordinarily will play out, particularly to the families of deceased personnel. What is required to be done for us to get out of that mode of, say, us versus them? Something, of course, that got aggravated usually during military political regimes.
Yes. First of all, thanks for the update on history in schools. It's encouraging to know that history started being taught in 2016. That's 3 years ago. That's okay. But then those who didn't learn history are active out there now. So maybe in 10 years' time, by 2026, we'll be seeing active youth in Nigeria who are history-laden. Anyway, talking about bloody civilians and not so bloody civilians, I really think that is old school. It's old school. Though people may want to still linger on that based on our military rule years, I could tell you too that when I was growing in the system, way back when I was a cadet and in military school, yes, soldiers call civilians bloody civilians. I also know that civilians call soldiers zombies. In fact, someone even sang a song and made a lot of money on zombie or so. One of our great fathers in this country was a musician. He's of blessed memory now. So it's an old school thing. Let me assure you that anywhere you see a soldier, you are looking at a civilian who was sourced, then processed, and he was deployed, he serves, retires, and still goes back to what? Being a civilian. So from the civil populace they come, and on to the civil populace they return. Nobody plans to die in service, though it happens. We all look forward to actually going back home and being civilians again, even though they tend to say once a soldier, always a soldier, but then that addresses it. Now, how can we begin to do things in a way that will support our veterans? When I say veterans, I'm talking of serving and retired and deceased. People who have military veterans, if you like, people who have served their country in the armed forces and are either no longer in the armed forces or are late. You see, the system itself creates a problem. I'm talking to you as a victim. When I was in the system, I had everything. When I say everything, I'm talking of what General Wahab called the basics. I had housing, I don't pay rent, I don't know what light bill was. I didn't know all of these things. It's still like that. Now, the things that happen to us don't ring bells. A widow who actually married her husband, she's been living with him in the barracks, they don't pay bills, they don't do water rates, they don't pay rent, and all those other things that you actually do out here. And one morning she just hears that, look, your husband fell in line of duty. And the thing just makes an automatic U-turn. She won't cope. Psychologically, financially, socially, everything just makes a U-turn. Everything turns from what it was to the exact opposite momentarily. We must begin to prepare for that. Good enough, we did a field study at my firm 2 years ago. And I discovered that there is might, there is strength, there is potential, there is prospect within what I have decided to call the military interior economy. If you were to actually count every serving soldier, every retired soldier who is alive, and then conservatively added a wife to that figure for each person, and then conservatively said, okay, let each of them have just 2 children, the numbers you get will equal 1 local government in Nigeria. I can also tell you from our study that financially, come what may, each serving soldier, each pensioner receives a pension or a salary every month. So if you consider that my 1 local government as a sector, and we decided to hone an interior economy for that sector, our monies can stay inside and generate more money. We do, for example, what some nationals from other countries whom we know to exist in Nigeria do. Today, there are people from certain countries who come to Nigeria and set up, and they patronize each other. If he wants a haircut, he looks for his fellow countryman's saloon. If there is none, he sets one up. If his children have to go to school, he looks for a fellow countryman's school where they are taught in their language. If they don't have that kind of school, he sets one up. Now, what they have succeeded in doing, those foreign nationals, is to keep the money they make within their community. We make money every month as salary earners serving or pensioners, but the money is not actually trapped within that community. So can we begin to see a day where we can begin to have supermarkets that will actually give soldiers a discount so that our friends who are civilians will gather their money and give us to go and buy for them there? And then the assistance that is meant to come from the public can come by way of CSR. There are people, organizations, and philanthropists who are ready to do so much for the military interior economy, if there is one. But don't get me wrong. For them to be able to do it, we must also appreciate the fact that they also exist under the yoke of the same economy we too are thriving in. So we must give them what we call a value proposition. That value proposition is what will encourage them to now add to what we have so that they too can benefit while we benefit, and it becomes a mutual thing. So for us to be able to support our military families, or particularly of deceased, we cannot lean entirely on the government and the armed forces. Neither can we lean entirely and expect the public to support us with what we expect them to do in form of CSR. We must first of all generate something from inside within us, and then you see it supported. And with that leverage, believe you me, the population of us out here is even more than the one in there. So it can only get better if we can come together and generate what I want to call a military interior economy. The word interior economy is deliberate. It may not make financial sense, but for my military colleagues, they know what I mean when I say interior economy. We used to do something like that in the academy. And we know how we leveraged efforts to actually turn our communities then into something else just for one day. That's my own heart song, if you like, on how we can actually turn things around for our dearly departed's families and widows.
Captain Ali Umar, we appreciate you a great deal. But right now, on this very issue, General Ayodeji, on this very issue of catering for the families of the deceased, let me just recall this, that when I was privileged to be in Israel, we were taken to a farm owned by the military. Because I'm drawing inference from what Captain just said, you know, the kind of interior economy by the military and what have you, right? But before you take on this question, let us finally thank Captain Ali Umar, retired, immensely for showing up this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed. We hope to have you next time around.
Okay. Kirian, just Captain Umar, the interior military stuff he was talking about, some would say, I mean, by the time you break it down, could that be an advanced Mami market kind of economy?
No, not Mami market. You know, the military growing its own economy, having farms, having
advanced Mami market.
Because, for instance, in Egypt, they have even transport companies, they have insurance companies, they have hotels and all of that, you know, which they also use when it comes to the issue of assisting, you know, deceased families. So please come in here.
Thank you very much. Fortunately, I was in Egypt as a member of a delegation. In fact, I led the delegation. And we're taking around the special project in Egypt, owned by the armed forces. In fact, it got to a point they were loaning the government, they loaned the government. It was the fact that this time around they were not ready to release another 2 billion to the Egyptian government. That's why the government is going to IMF for this loan they are collecting now. But the armed forces used to give the government loan, and the government might not pay back. They have a massive company into electronics, into oil and business and whatever. Is the opportunity available here? The answer is no. There were instances where the armed forces had set up organizations or companies and they wanted to go into areas, engineering and whatever. And some people raised the observation, no, you are not supposed to do this. You are created or you are established simply for security, and that's all. So a lot of issues. But on the interior economy he's talking about, the armed forces have been doing some things. The housing issue. For instance, the Army started the post-housing department, PhD, they started building, and then they even invited civilians. You buy some parts so that it is not a military entity. It's not another barrack that you are setting up all over again. But the problem is there's a limit by which you can go. The Army, for instance, because I was involved, set up its own limited bank, PHL. At the initial stage, the deposit with the central bank was pegged at ₦1 billion. The Army was able to pay. But later it was increased to 5 billion. And they now separated those who are supposed to operate at the local level and those to operate at the national level. What you deposit, it's not possible for the armed forces to deposit that money because the money is given for something and you cannot carry that money and
General, what you're talking about, I mean, that's a point that I'm sure we can explore, Kirian, at a future date. That is with regard to the military interior economy, different aspects. There will have to be a special dispensation. And some persons would also argue specialized engineering, for instance. Why can't we have engineering services? But again, you have to worry about the back end, you know, who gets the funds, you know, who gets the money, who gets the returns, how do you account for it and all of that. But I'm sure that some of those issues will address the welfare concerns. Air Commodore announced.
Yes, sure, because
very quickly, yes.
The various services have come up with a lot of, let's not create the impression that the services are not doing anything to the families of the deceased personnel. They have been doing a lot. But you know, resources are not adequate to cover all that the services will want to do. So that is why we are saying other stakeholders, especially well-to-do companies, can come in and assist the military in also facilitating some of these things for the families of the deceased personnel and their wives.
All right, we have a few tweets here with us. Let's just read them out before we conclude this program. I am having from the IB fashion, I am having a renewed respect for the Nigerian Armed Forces with this feature on Good Morning Nigeria today. I have always looked forward to a Nigeria that will value everything the way it should be valued. The part, how did they take history study out of schools? Well, it's really a hit in Nigeria, but of course we have been informed that it has been reversed, so history has returned to our curriculum.
Olowo Kere Olajide tweets, our armed forces face remarkable challenges managing our national security, whether on the front lines or in crucial support roles such as logistics, communications, and maintenance. We must cultivate the habit of appreciating members of our armed forces.
Now, from Omobola Home, the Nigerian military remains one of the very disciplined outfits. It takes patriotism to be enlisted into the Nigerian army or military. Passion and respect, not money, drive many into joining the outfit.
All right, those are the tweets that we have in the meantime. Let's thank Air Commodore Yusuf Anas, former Director of Public Relations and Information of the Nigerian Air Force. Air Commodore Anas, thank you very much for being with us on the program.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank the NTA for giving us this opportunity, but I also want to request on behalf of my constituency by thanking the government for what they are doing, but the armed forces also, I think, deserve a salary review, because I understand the Nigerian police have been given a salary review. So these people that are also working 24/7 to protect the nation, I think I want to call on the government to also look at the possibility of also...
all right, Commodore Yusuf Anas, once again, thank you very much. We also would like to appreciate Major General Wahab Garba Ayodeji, former GOC 1 Div, and also at some point Chief of Army Administration. Thank you very much for being with us on the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, so let's go over now to our foreign desk for some stories.
Prosecutors in Manhattan have ordered the Trump Inaugural Committee to hand over documents relating to how the team raised and spent over $100 million. Reports say the document covers a wide range of data regarding who donated to the inauguration, whether they were not U.S. citizens, and how the money was spent. White House spokeswoman Sarah Sanders had told the media on Tuesday that the order has nothing to do with the president, saying that the subpoena, which has not been made public, does not allege any wrongdoing. According to federal election law, foreign nationals are prohibited from donating to U.S. Inaugural Committee. And official report has confirmed that 10 people, including a baby, have died in a fire at an 8-story building in southwestern Paris. The report also said more than 30 people, including 6 firefighters, were injured and 1 other person in serious condition. Meanwhile, the reports say 50 people were evacuated by ladders from the blaze. Investigators, however, believe the fire, which is said to be one of the most deadly in the French capital in years, was probably a deliberate act.
Now let's take a weather outlook for the rest of today.
Welcome to the weather forecast with Joyce Machoko Ogunleye. Now, the forecast for Wednesday still indicates dust haze conditions over some parts of the north. That's Katsina, Kano, Sokoto, Potiskum, and Maiduguri axis at a daytime temperatures of 37 to 39 degrees Celsius, while the central states at a daytime of 38 to 39 degrees Celsius are expected to be in partly cloudy to cloudy conditions. For high ground areas of the Mambila Plateau and Makurdi axis, where morning thunderstorms are likely. And moving down to the southern axis, it is expected to be cloudy over this axis, with intervals of sunshine in the morning, although residents of Lagos and Ijebu axis should watch out for some localized activities over that region in the morning. And later in the afternoon, the coastal belts have prospects of isolated thunderstorms, especially over Port Harcourt, Calabar, Yenegua, Obudu, Lagos, Benin areas of the coast. So we advise that people around these flash spots should exercise caution so you don't get caught up in any unpleasant situation. And that's the weather update for Wednesday. Thank you for watching.
And that's how we conclude today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Before we go, we'd like to inform you that the 2019 National Policy and Development Summit, NPOD, comes up at 9 p.m. That's immediately after 9 a.m. That's immediately after this program. Do stay tuned and be part of it. Now, from me, Kyrian Umayo, I thank you for watching, and please join us again tomorrow for more on Good Morning Nigeria.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. Do have a lovely day ahead.